All right, so welcome to part two. We just have one slide left. I wanted to point out some instances of rebellion by women. And these are during the Revolutionary War, which we'll talk about a little later on. So in 1777, we have a few different instances in Massachusetts in which women sort of had these rebellions related to food. And so in 1777 in Boston, we have these women who, we had this merchant named Boylston. They demand that he lower his prices of coffee and sugar because he was raising the prices during the war, making it more difficult for people to get their goods. He refused to lower prices, and so they pushed him down, they took his keys, they spanked him, and they opened his warehouse and took his coffee. And I understand, you mess with someone's coffee, you're asking for it. Similarly, in East Hartford, so 20 women and 3 male cohorts marched on Mr. Pitkin's store. He was hoarding sugar to sell it to the Continental Army, so they stole 218 pounds of his sugar and got away with it, and they were later on ridiculed in the newspaper. So, if men had stolen sugar, they would have, people would have been upset, they would have gotten punished. But because women did this, they said the women should form a battalion and live off of their plunder. They thought it was so funny that these women went in and stole sugar from this man. And the third one I want to talk about is the Beverly sugar riot. So merchants stopped accepting paper money for sugar. And so 60 women dressed in hooded robes and carrying muskets marched, and they had a bunch of carts with them. They went to the location where the sugar was being stored. They had some men chop down the gate with axes, and then they stole, they pushed the foreman down, stole his hairpiece, and then stole his sugar as well. And in the end, they actually got some change. The merchants ended up accepting paper money, so they actually had a positive effect there with that. One other thing I want to talk about, which we read in Zinn this week, was I wanted to talk about Anne Hutchinson. So I had mentioned in Puritan New England that women weren't allowed to criticize the Bible or preaching or have any sort of opinion. And Anne Hutchinson, as you read, started holding meetings in her home to discuss sermons, and she started criticizing what the ministers were saying. So she did end up going to trial twice for heresy and for sedition. And she ended up being found guilty. She was banished. And when she got banished, 35 families followed her. They did end up, making their way to Long Island, where Anne was killed by some of the native population, which is unfortunate, but she was very influential in Puritan New England. So I just wanted to point that out. She may pop up on an exam at some point. All right, and so this lecture will be done, and then we'll have another series of lectures popping up right below it. See you then.